talking through the main slate. I actually have early slate written on this, but I'm going to change it. We have the MLB main slate. I've just put it twice here. That's my bad. But we're going to get into it. We're going to talk through this 6-gamer. Some good tournament out there, and we've got the sweat show tonight. So hopefully we can have a sweat. And then we've got a NBA also. We'll touch on that. And there were some people in there asking questions yesterday, and I think that we're in speculation mode on some of these games, but we'll get into that. As far as this slate goes, it's actually like it's only a 6-gamer, but I think there are some, there's going to be concentrated chalk, but we can find ways to get different on these little ones. And I personally am in baseball. I don't mind the littler slates at all. Actually, I don't mind them in the NBA either, but NBA, it's about getting 1 or 2 spots different. In the MLB, you could just, get any stack different, basically. By the way, I am a little concerned that somehow somebody joined us, which is nice, but I don't understand why this is not popping up in our
again.
Yeah.
Want me to do it again?
No. We'll go with it because somebody's there. Let me just make sure it's on our YouTube.
There. Okay.
Then they can watch it later. I just want to make sure that we're actually doing this right here. So yeah, looks like we're good. All right. So anyway. So, all right. So Sheets, let's get into it. This is we're going to have it's a 6-gamer, but it's for some reason the main slate, not the early one. We're going to have a crazy amount of ownership in a very, hard to resist spot with Spencer Strider. We're going to have, a lot of ownership on Gaussman. And I think Kershaw is going to get a good amount of ownership. The interesting part is I wanted to play Hunter Green when I first was thinking about this, but I actually think he gets some ownership as well today. So it's going to be a little bit tricky to try and navigate these. Do you have any overall thoughts before we jump into game by game?
Yeah, the second pitcher is going to be the interesting decision. I mean, Strider is going to be obviously a standout, and how you go with your second pitcher is going to be interesting. And I think there's a lot of different hitting options. So. So we are going to do the live sweat. We'll have a bunch of different sports kind of like coagulating at the same time. We're going to have the NBA coming in there in game 2. We're going to have probably the last of the KC Texas game will be probably just finishing, but we'll have the second half of the Dodgers San Francisco game to worry about, or root, depending on what your take is.
Yeah.
And between that and maybe an NHL thing, we're going to lead into the PGA lineup build for tomorrow, which is going to be fun also. Kind of getting into these Wednesdays. So let's just get started. So, I mean, right off the bat, like for me at least, I mean, this first game is I have as the 2 top hitting options on the slate, being Oakland and Baltimore. And I also, unfortunately, have them as the 2 highest owned spots on the slate also. So we're gonna have to deal with that. Baltimore is usually, good place for runs, and these pitchers are not the greatest. Mountcastle, Hayes, Rushman, Santander, Mullins, certainly makes a lot of sense. Actually, I shouldn't say that Oakland's like the second best spot.
Yeah, I actually don't think Oakland.
Sorry, I didn't mean that. I meant Baltimore. So Baltimore I have as the top overall play on the slate. But I did have, by the way, Oakland as a decent little leverage stack. That's what I was looking. I was looking at my kind of leverage scores here, but didn't quite get up to another team, which I'm going to get to. But Baltimore looks like the top overall play. They're going to get a lot of ownership, and that's a decision you have to make.
Yeah, I'm interested in Baltimore. Obviously, hard to resist in general against the A's. It's Waldachek. You've got a bunch of righties righties and switch hitters they can throw at them. I'm curious how their lineup shakes out. It's 77 degrees with the winds blowing out 11 miles an hour to right center. I like Baltimore, and I have one way that you can get different using their stack, and that is playing Dean Kremer as their pitcher at 5,500. As we talked about earlier, like this slate has a little bit more risk to have some super high owned, super high scores possibly for your top 3 pitchers here. But look, if they don't get there, I do think Kramer has like the ability. Anybody against this Oakland offense at 5,500, I'm going to probably take chances on in general. So I actually have Kramer as a reasonable option here, and he was actually in one of my in some of my early builds that I posted last night. The double spend down is something I'm open to. He threw 87 pitches his last time out. He's had to face the Yankees and pitch in Boston so far. Now he gets Oakland. I think this is a spot where I would take a shot with Kremer. And I do like the Baltimore stack for what it's worth. But again, as you said, you're going to have to deal with some pretty heavy ownership. Guys like Gunnar Henderson, if he's batting further down the order, might not be as high owned. And oddly, Cedric Mullins may not be as high owned because of the price. So you can, those are two of my favorite bats on their team. So I'm okay with taking shots. If I'm
okay. I would just like everybody to know that Juan Soto hit a two-run homer.
Well, that's terrible for me. So.
Oh, well, that's good for me. Let's let somebody do something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I've got probably like 4 times the entry fees though that you just today. I played pretty.
Yeah, probably. That's
definitely not a good thing for me. But it's all right.
Tell you what, if I win the 50,000, I'll refund your buy-ins.
Okay, I'll take it. I'm just kidding. Nice for Soto though. All right. So let's talk about this. You're off to a nice start. So let's talk about the next one, Boston and Tampa Bay. And reminder, everybody, it is 6:35 Eastern.
Hang on. So we want to screenshot right away. Ready? Here it is. Let's screenshot and then have this.
Hey,
there it is. There it is. Oh, and the Volpe. All right, there it is. Let's go. All right.
Yeah. Wow. Volpe got a lot more ownership than he was projecting, but
Soto had a full 4% ownership though, so I got to fight with a lot.
Wow, man, this is a pretty.
all I need is the Colorado to bust. How hard could that be?
Yeah, absolute nuts to start off with.
That's it.
All right. So let's jump over to the Tampa Bay Boston game. I certainly could understand the arguments people are going to make for both sides. I don't know what they're going to do with Taj Bradley. I'd like to find that out before this goes on. As far as I know, this is a top prospect, and I'm kind of confused at what they're going to do. He's literally like probably a top 5 prospect in baseball. He's been terrific in the minors, and I think that but he hasn't thrown a ton of pitches. This is a get weird play, but I actually think that I am going to consider Bradley. Like this early time of the year is when I'm willing to take these chances on the spend down pitchers because it's so hard to get the big games out of your top guys without a few aces. However, on the other side, I also think, and by the way, keep in mind that there could be we don't know who's pitching for sure for Tampa Bay yet. There's definitely some speculation in different directions. But Chris Sale this is like when I like to pivot, okay? When everybody and all the news has gone one way and everything, and Tampa Bay is the best team in baseball, which is I'm not even questioning right now, but 2 things. 1, Tampa Bay will be unowned today against Chris Sale, who looks very vulnerable. 2, Chris Sale is a cheap option on a slate where I think people are all going to spend up on pitching. And I think that he's interesting enough at 7,400 to where I'm going to play some of them. So that's my early look is Chris Sale and, in some lineups and the Rays stacks and some others, because they're both going to be lower owned than I feel like they should be on a 6-game.
I like Tampa a lot. They are actually really close to my top leverage adjusted stack on the board. Rosarena, Franco, Diaz, of course, Isaac Paredes. What would a stack be without Isaac Paredes in the Sheets lineup?
Your favorite guy.
Yep. And I like it a lot. Chris Sale against Tampa. He's only 7,400, and you're going to need an SP2. But I don't know. Boy, it's going to be low owned also. Tampa's going to be 162-0, right? That's what we all decided. So it's hard to take a pitcher against a team that's going to be 162-0. But yeah, I like. It's funny when I got back and I saw that you posted in advance your builds for today. I saw some Sale in there, and I'm like, wow, that was very. I didn't expect to see that.
I think it's a very non-bold play. I think if anything else had changed, any little differences early in the season, I think Sale would be the highest owned pitcher on the slate by a landslide.
Well, I didn't even. The funny thing is, I didn't even know who they were playing. I just saw like Sale in your build. I'm like, oh, who are they playing? Like home against the Tigers or something. I'm looking like, what? Is he out of his mind? Right. So.
By the way, Tampa doesn't have like an elite power offense. This is like
they still strike out.
They also platoon half their guys.
That's true also.
So it's a tougher team to stack than, you know what I mean? They are injured though. So you might have a chance to actually keep some guys in there. They've got some guys banged up because they've won every game. Go ahead.
Oh, the other thing I was going to say before I left this team is the other. I mean, I would be remiss not to point out that I don't know who this guy is, the Toshawn Bradley, whatever it is, but whatever it's worth, Boston is showing up as a good play, a good stack. So,
hate Boston as a stack personally. They've never hit in. This is the worst hitting conditions outside of San Francisco on the slate, by the way, in this game, obviously in Tampa. And Boston has now lost, I think, 12 or 13 in a row to Tampa, and they just never hit in Tampa. And Taj is probably. You could argue if he's the best prospect in baseball. I'm looking at some things now that have him in the top 3. Some of them have him as number 1. And then if you get into a bullpen game against Tampa, I just don't have any interest in the Boston thing. If it beats me, absolutely don't care at all. Will not be playing Boston stacks at all in my lineups today.
All right.
That's I just want to take some my strong stances, you know.
There it is.
By the way, also don't be surprised if all of a sudden you get word that McClanahan is somehow starting tonight, because we don't know what Tampa's doing yet.
So here's a question. Here's the philosophical question: like how much Toronto is too much Toronto? Is a question that we're gonna have to answer, because they're gonna, alongside of Baltimore, those are the 2 top plays as far as my numbers are looking like, and you know. You saw what you saw already, a little flex of what could happen in Toronto. I mean, starting with Manoah getting tattooed a little bit. I would say tattooed, but starting with them getting to Manoah, getting to him. This stadium is going to be rough business, and it's partially the reason why I'm a little scared of Gaussman, if you want to know the truth.
You're always afraid of Gaussman, and all I don't understand it. He's like super consistent. He's been dominant like most of the last 3 years, but I think that there's like an old memory from when you first started playing that Gaussman was the guy we could pick on because he'd get wild sometimes, but he's just not that guy.
I don't even mean that. I just mean the stadium.
Oh yeah. I mean, they have to get the ball in the air on a guy who doesn't let the ball get in the air very much. So.
Okay. That's fair enough.
But like to say, and having said that, by the way, I don't think you're off with like, I'm not going to stack Detroit, but like there are some cheap guys there that certainly don't mind if you want to take a shot with. They're going to be unowned.
All right. Well, let's take the easy one. So Bichette, Springer. Has Whit Merrifield gotten a hit yet this season?
Yeah,
that'd be nice if I could play him. If I could have faith, he could put the bat on the ball. Chapman. Everybody on Toronto is in play, and they're going to be really popular. So, what do you want to do?
Well, I mean, obviously, I have a lot of interest in Toronto, but I also think that and look, maybe I'm getting too creative, but I don't think so. Like, you have a pitcher with an unlimited leash who has been pretty dominant against this particular lineup, and he's 5,800 and will have 1% ownership. It's just a spot I'm willing to embrace in Erod.
Yeah.
I don't think he's as bad as he's looked this year. However, I think he's bad enough to where you should be picking on him. Like, it's a really weird thing, but it's just, can I see him have an outlier game? He and Kremer and Sale are all the guys who I'm willing to embrace some variance in the larger field tournaments. But I have Toronto number 1 as a stack. I mean, having said all that, like, this is pretty common what I've been doing lately, and it's going to be hard. I actually think they're going to be a lot more popular than Baltimore is, just for what it's worth.
Yeah, and now Eric Johnson finally gets his chance. I mean, he could play Erod here against the popular Toronto club.
Yeah, and he'll be stacking Oakland anyway, so it doesn't matter what he does here because he's definitely stacking Oakland. I promise you 1,000,000%.
Why Oakland?
He stacks Oakland every day. He loves Oakland. He talks about all the time.
I thought because I wanted to see who was pitching for Baltimore. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, what's up to my man Brooklyn Juice in the chat? WW Fresh. Hey man, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the kind words. Appreciate that very much. And that's a really nice thing to say, that this is the best channel. I think we do a good job, and I think that we definitely, we bring different ways of analyzing, but we're hopefully getting on a team heater, because Sheets has been doing well. Now I'm doing well after a really rough start, and hopefully we can keep it going. All right, so let's get over to. I didn't say we're stuck in Oakland, by the way. I said that Eric Johnson's stuck in Oakland. It's not that crazy, by the way. But anyway, Cincinnati, Atlanta. Sorry, Sheets. I feel like I'm doing all the talking here. I'll let you start this one off. Why don't you do that?
No, Cincinnati, Atlanta. All right, I can do this one. So Spencer Strider is going to be the best pitcher on the slate. He has a lot of win equity. He's got a lot of strikeout upside, just pretty much everything that you want. And he's going to be, what, in the 555, 80% owned?
Probably.
Yep. And in the relay throw, whatever, will probably be upwards of 50. Tough fade, if you want to know the truth. But I mean, listen, as you mentioned, there are guys, that could put up numbers. Gausman could put up a number, Kershaw could put up a number. I mean, they're guys that could outscore him. Just, it's just more likely that Strider outscores them. That's all. But I mean, again, this is the way ownership works. Do you want to fade Strider? I mean, you could. I mean, you definitely could, just because I know that between Gausman and Kershaw, they can get those numbers. Or you could do something completely different. You can play some Erod with something else, and then pay all the way up for all the expensive Torontos, and just hope that Strider just, hope he doesn't do it. What can I tell you? On the other hand, you do have Atlanta, who I feel is a pretty decent pivot stack, as they always are. But the question that we want to ask is Hunter Green that second pitcher alongside of Strider, because that's where we kind of started the slate, like who we're going to play alongside with Strider. And I definitely think that he has the potential to be that second guy. I mean, 6,900. I only see him getting 12 to 15% ownership, which is kind of hard to believe if you want to know the truth. People like to play this guy.
Atlanta, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It is Atlanta. So, I would listen. If I were really probably doing this right, I'd play Strider and spread out my SP2s. And then what I end up doing is that in my big buy-in, probably not play Strider at all, and play something like either Gausman, Kershaw.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Or the opposite, or maybe like Hunter Green with we got some other guys to talk about. Maybe Hunter Green and Sale. How about that? That's something. That's fun. That's a fun
one. But even that's double digit on that. You could go with my Dean Kremer and Erod and combine 3% ownership.
That's true. You could definitely do that. You could definitely do that. But Hunter Green is he's talented. I think some people will play him at 6,900.
Oh yeah. I think he probably ends up closer to 20. My guess is.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all I have. I think Atlanta, as always, is a good. I didn't even say pivot stack. So it's not like there's a huge amount of chalk. Like Toronto's going to be chalky, Baltimore's going to be chalky, but it's not like St. Louis at Colorado, right?
Right.
So yeah, Atlanta's always in play for you.
Yeah, I think Atlanta is being drastically underowned on this slate. They're the best differentiator to me. We'll get into one other one in a minute. I really, if they're all sub 10%, you can sign me up. I mean, I guess Acuna will never be 10%, but everybody else, look, Hunter Green's problem is control, and he can give up hard contact. Okay. This is not the team you want to mess with. However, Atlanta has a lot of strikeouts in their lineup. They also have a lot of guys who are going to take pitches, and Hunter Green still hasn't gotten out of the fourth inning in a game. So I personally am on the side, or I guess maybe it's the fifth. I'm on the side of Atlanta here mostly. I do like Hunter Green where I'm not playing some Atlanta, but I think that like Hunter Green versus Sale, if Hunter Green's twice his own, I just think I'd rather take a shot with Chris Sale. It's just interesting how perception works. It's like, it's almost like people think Sale got killed last time he was out there. He had 19 fantasy points. Hunter Green, yeah, he can put up a big number, but they can put up a big number against him. So I'm going to take Atlanta's probably going to be higher owned than they're being projected. And I also think Atlanta, along with Baltimore and Toronto, are my favorites that we've talked about so far.
I have to say, I'm looking at the ownership of like the early slate a little bit. And I'm looking at the relay throw right now.
it's all going to be Colorado, right?
Well, forget that. This is a ton of ownership in Sonny Gray. This is too much. I wasn't expecting that.
I'm not surprised at all because he actually has looked good. But it was for the reasons you said, though. You nailed the reasons.
But he's got 2 starts. One of them is he struck out 100 guys. The other guy struck out like 1.
Yeah, he's got a wide range, but the White Sox without any of their hitters, I kind of get what they're doing. And also we just saw Pablo Lopez, put up a huge number against them. They can't hit righties going back for a year and a half now. So,
all right. So let's talk about Kansas City, Texas. I mean, I think that this is another very reasonable spot for both. Wow, it's annoying that Seager. What is it? Seager hurt for a while or no?
We don't know.
Okay. I think Texas's hitters are going to be in play against these kind of fishy pitchers for a while. Can I was about to ask if I could interest you in Eovaldi, and then I look at his ownership, and they're going to play him too. Eovaldi looks decent. He could throw at 100, right? He could throw at 100. It's it's probably has some upside. Strider could throw at 100 also, but Eovaldi, I think he's in play as a lower owned SP2, I guess. But I think Texas is again very reasonable as far as a hitting option.
Texas, I have just about as chalky as Baltimore as the second most popular.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they're not getting anything different with Texas.
Okay.
Massive chalk. I would suggest going on the other side if you wanted to get different of this game.
Okay.
You have the ridiculously, if you want to play the 10K and the 9K pitchers, here's some value for you. And you've got a couple of good players to mix in with it, with the Melendez, with Perez, but then you've got the cheapos, depending on how the lineup is. Dozier, Pasquantino, Michael Massey, who knows where he ends up in the lineup. Oliveira sometimes bets near the two. We have to see how the lineup shakes out, but Kyle Isbell at 2,400. I think this whole team is definitely in play here, and I don't have a lot of respect for Eovaldi. I mean, not respect. I just don't personally think he's very good. I think that he gets away with being just a mediocre pitcher and played for some good teams, and it's a lot easier to play when you're up 10-0 in games, and that's what happened when he was in Boston. So I don't think there's a huge gap between Keller and Eovaldi as pitchers. Eovaldi's better, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's this massive, crazy gap. And, it's a 6-gamer. You want to look for ownership differences. So I'm probably, especially without Seager, I'm probably going to be lower on Texas. But I'll have some maybe they're a mini stack or one-offs. They are really cheap. Robbie Grossman should bet at near the top of the order, somewhere in the 1 to 4 range. He's 2,800. Josh Jung, your guy, he's looked really good this year. I still always like Adolis and Semien. So I get it. I just personally, I'd rather play the teams with the better lineups, except for the fact that I'm going to make an argument that KC is a really good way to get different. So maybe with your Baltimore, and I have Baltimore and Toronto as the top 2, but maybe if you play KC, Atlanta with those guys, you can find a way that you can get different and still have a chance to put up a big number.
So for the first couple of days of the season, San Francisco has actually had the best weather for a while. So you're telling me that's kind of that's turned now and it's back to normal?
No, just whenever anybody else's weather is good, their weather's been bad to start the year. It's just it was 55 degrees less. It's not instead of 38. With everything going on, it's definitely the worst hitting weather. I mean, it's 55 degrees. I honestly don't particularly care though. I'm going
to have some Dodger stacks.
Yeah.
I'm going to have the Outman. I'll have the Peralta, presuming he gets in there, and then Muncy, and then Freeman, and then either Betts or what's his name, Martinez. Betts at second base is pretty. You know what I mean? That's it's
a little peak Cody. Yeah,
it's kind of a positional gift in a way.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to have some of that, and I'm going to let you talk to me about whether I want to play Kershaw or
not. Okay, so let's talk about it. I mean, one thing this thing happens all the time with Kershaw where he doesn't get owned. It's not going to happen today. He doesn't get owned because there's at least a perception of his upside being far less than everybody else's. for what it's worth, he has a 29% strikeout rate against this team that's hitting below 200 against him, who they're expecting to field tonight. With a little bit of power, actually, they've gotten off of him. But basically, that's all they do because they don't walk against him. They strike out at a reasonable rate. It's never fun for me with the Giants because they're just pesky. You know what I mean? They're an annoying team to pitch pitchers against. So Strider and Gaussman look like the clear 1 and 2 to me. But Kershaw I thought was going to be a great pivot. He's going to get ownership probably similar to Gaussman, it's looking like. So that makes me a little less interested in Kershaw, but I am in on the Dodgers. So that's what I'm going to do is focus my builds around the Dodgers, Atlanta, and KC. And then maybe I'll do 4-4s or 5-3s with Toronto and Baltimore, and maybe a little Tampa Bay. But I have the Dodgers, Atlanta, and KC as the best way to try to win tournaments. They're not my favorite stacks, but they are in terms of ownership. So I think this is a really interesting spot, and I will definitely have some Dodger stacks tonight. I also don't think you certainly on a 6-gamer don't need a 5-man stack. I think this is the kind of slate also you can get away with 3-3-2s and 4-2-2s and 4-4s. I think that's what I would be looking at. 4-3-1-2. Yeah, I agree with you. If you want to play Evaldi, go ahead. I just don't find the need to save 1,100 from Strider, who's got 40-point upside, versus Evaldi, who I'm praying for 20. And if I wanted to pray for 20, I'd play Chris Sale at lower ownership and a cheaper price, and I'll play for Dean Kremer at a cheaper ownership, at lower ownership at a cheaper price. So I think there's definitely some options, and that's what I would do. Your main pitchers are Gaussman, Strider, Kershaw, and then I guess Green. But I'm into taking some shots on Kremer, Sale, and I think, look, even in the 150 max, I'm not going to max it out or anything, but I will play a couple of Erod lineups to both hedge my Toronto and also you're playing. I mean, Erod literally like this. I just don't think it's all gone yet. I think he's looked terrible, but I'd like to be there when he finds it again. I don't think it's likely that it'll be against Toronto today, but with 1% ownership on a 6-game slate, I think that's probably worth taking a shot.
My favorites, listen, Baltimore's going to be chalky, so forget that for a minute. I guess I would say Tampa, and then maybe you and I will battle with the Boston idea. So Tampa, Boston, and I can't say the Dodgers will be low owned, right? So I like the Dodgers.
Yeah, just remember we don't know who's pitching for Tampa yet, so keep that one in mind.
It'll be a bullpen game, and then it'll be 100% sure to have a shutout. I mean, like there's no bullpen games. You just are just like that's where like it's like the Cavaliers of the NBA. You know what I mean? That's where fantasy points go to die.
100 couldn't agree more. That's totally right. Anyway, guys, it should be a fun one. We'll be live at 5:30 Eastern. I gave you guys my favorite plays and pivots, and I think that we can do some stuff here. So we're gonna do a golf show, but Sheets, I'm gonna need just a few minutes to make sure that because we didn't have the lineups released for some of my.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. We'll do golf, and then we'll do NBA, whatever you want.
Cool. Good. Golf in like 10 minutes, I think would be great for me.
Let's call it. You want to call it like 2:00 again?
Sure. Let's do that.
All right, 2:00.